how do you participate? I'm going to offer you some of the details, but to understand how you can get involved as lawyers, you have to have some understanding of how we're asking students to be involved. Essentially, we're telling students that there are two main pieces of this project. One is a set of requirements or Saturday sessions where we imagine there will be 10, 3, occasionally 4-hour sessions devoted to certain topics. And those sessions will be spaced between October 3rd and April 10th. So beginning in just a couple of weeks. Of those sessions, we will be taking up certain topics. And these are topics that Justin and I, at least as a starting point, have used as our vision of kind of how we will walk through what we consider to be some of the elements that are left out of much of law school. Including an overview and critique of legal education, the history of legal education, student movements in legal education, and so forth. An overview of different forms of legal theory, including the legal sorts of legal theory that Kei-Sue was just describing, and the kind of legal theory that people like Justin brought to help bring to Georgetown and to other schools through his journal, and that Michael is helping to bring through his almost theoretical view of what lawyering can be in his movement lawyering journal. And then we'll spend some time also there talking about critiques of basic forms of more dominant or legal theories. And then we will take up a couple of Saturdays to look at some of the classic cases in the 1L curriculum, to analyze them from a critical perspective that we have already set up in those previous sessions, and give them now a new reading with a new lens to see how they feel. And we'll do the same thing for some of the cases in the 2L and 3L curriculum. And by we, I really mean you. That is, Justin and Enyamale and I and the students who are helping us are trying to create a platform by which the expertise and knowledge that many of you have already gained, the skills you have in teaching some of these things, we can tap into that and bring you to this place to help build these Saturday sessions. We'll then have 2 sessions on systemic lawyering, whereby we mean everything from, say, impact litigation, which someone mentioned in the chat, to holistic defense, to community lawyering, to movement lawyering, and so forth. So we'll try to cover a range of types of lawyering where the lawyers themselves are devoted to not just representing individual clients, but also keeping an eye to the larger systemic effects of the law and how they can alter those systems by serving as a lawyer. Then we'll have a session on life as a systemic lawyer, which I'll spare you the details of, and we'll have a career fair that is optional for students, but that's one thing we're hoping that almost all of you will be willing to participate in, the date to be determined. And then there will be a session devoted to student presentations of whatever they want to do. Should be clear, their work and their contributions will be interwoven throughout all of these, but this one will be exclusively theirs. And then we'll also have a retreat. So there are 11 items there, one of which is optional for students. So we're telling them there are 10 required sessions. We consider this to be the heart of the community building opportunities, the hub of where people get to know each other, where they're meeting in breakout sessions, where they're being assigned to different interest areas and having conversations based on that. So many of the connections from which other kinds of relationships will build will happen in those Saturday sessions. So we're very much hoping to have robust participation on the part of many of you in that. In those. So now, what can you do? Well, our feedback from some of you is understandable, that A, you really want to be involved, and B, you absolutely can't be involved. And that kind of dilemma is one that we've tried to resolve by coming up with 3 different levels of involvement. For those of you who have small kids or who are just have teaching duties on Saturdays, or major cases underway in the fall and so forth, we understand that you can't be at all 10 of them, but we are asking for you to be to at least one of them. And if you're willing to, at this moment, in good faith, say, yeah, you know what, I want to be part of this whole organization, but I can probably only be confident about attending 1 to 3 of those Saturday sessions, then we'd like you to do that and sort of designate yourself as a friend of the Justice Initiative. Now, the friends will also be in, um, included in all our emails, asked to participate on the Slack, otherwise paying attention to what's going on. If there is some collective effort, some action that students are involved with, we'll hope that you'll take those up and be supportive. Those of you willing to make a slightly greater commitment to Saturday sessions and try to attend roughly half of them, we'd love for you to do that. You have the time and bandwidth to do that. We're going to call you allies, and among the allies, we're hoping that you will be willing to participate in some of the other kinds of options that students will have and that we will facilitate this year. A bit more about those in a moment. And then finally, those of you who are really into this and excited about it and have the time to do it, we'd like to call you partners. So those of you who are partners will be really just like the students, more or less. They're at most of the Saturday sessions, and you'll be participating in at least 2 of the additional kind of elements of the program, which now I'll tell you about what those additional elements are. So for the students, we imagine trying to facilitate and create opportunities that are outside of the Saturday sessions. Some of these will be responsive to what's going on in the world. Some of these will be responsive to particular student interest who want to dig deeper on some topic. And some of them will be responsive to something that happened in the Saturday session where we have a speaker who wants to come back and hold office hours with a small group of students and so forth. So this set of options that we hope to facilitate, and we imagine will often emerge spontaneously and organically, include things like discussion groups that follow from what's going on, or there's an election coming up and maybe we're not talking about the election, but students really want to talk about it across campuses and so forth, maybe to build some kind of action across campuses. We want to facilitate that. Reading groups where students want to read a particular book, where you perhaps have an expertise in an area and want to bring some articles and lead a reading group in that space. Those are all great things that we want to encourage and think we will be able to. Also, as I've mentioned, organizing and action groups that emerge out of this. And then we also imagine some institution building teams, as we already have these great groups that Enyamali mentioned, for example, the outreach group or the online infrastructure group, and et cetera. We're going to want to keep those going and would love, and we're doing that, and we'll probably keep that going during the year. Now, what does this mean for you? Given what students are required to do and your levels of participation in those requirements, and given the optional things that students are doing, we think there's a whole bunch of other things you could participate in if you wanted to. And we are hoping that some of these will be appealing to you and give you something that you want out of this program in addition to simply the classes. So here is a list. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Essentially, you can be a Saturday, if you're interested, let us know you want to be a Saturday session presenter on some topic. We want to know that because we're going to be putting those sessions together, or perhaps a panelist in one of those. You could be a reading group leader. So what we required of you above is just to participate in a reading group, but you could also be a leader. You could help organize and bring the readings together and facilitate the reading group discussions and so forth. You could be a discussion group leader or facilitator, same basic idea, on a topic to be selected really in that moment. You could be a breakout room facilitator, by which we mean so you help us plan an event, and then we hold breakout rooms in the middle of one of our Saturday sessions, and you serve to facilitate the conversation itself to help us make the most out of that opportunity. You could serve as an advisor and be willing to meet with one or more groups of students regarding career-related advice that you might feel prepared to give and that they might want to have. Or you can make a slightly greater investment and become a mentor, by which we mean you would be willing to meet with one or more students individually to listen, to hear about what they want to do, to offer your own guidance about how they might do it, some encouragement, and perhaps even some assistance along the way. You could also be a pro bono supervisor. That is, many students will be able to gain relationships with lawyers and legal organizations through this initiative, and those relationships will give them opportunities to do work um, for pro bono credit with their law schools. And I've talked to the folks at Harvard Law School, and they're very eager to facilitate that. And this is something you could help us out on the other side. And similarly, with respect to rapid response efforts, where you or your organization needs something very quickly, that may not even be that legal, it may be law related, maybe a hotline or something else that you're responding to in the moment. We've had a lot of these lately, and it's a place where you could draw from large numbers of students if you're willing to set that up and supervise it. You could help supervise an independent or external clinic where students are actually getting clinical credit for working with your organization on some project for credit over the course of the semester. And of course, you could be a host of summer jobs or summer internships with your organization. And this would be a place where you could get to know students and make those kinds of connections and offers. And finally, you could participate on some of these special project teams and help, for example, with outreach or online or what have you. So those are the ways in which you can be helpful. And what we have done is created a survey that asks you to fill in, kind of what your interests would be and what level of involvement you would want to have. And from that, you will be able to register, and we'll be able to get back and sort of let you know, and then we can begin from there. But we would ask that you would complete that registration survey. I'll give you the link in just a moment. By October 1st, and sooner the better. And if you have any questions, that you let us know. Because the really important date is our first session, which is October 3rd. It'll go from 3 to 6. And we will be doing something on legal education. So if you happen to have expertise on legal education itself, and you want to be you're interested in participating in some way, register soon and let us know that that's an interest of yours. And then on April 10th will be the last date, and then we are working with a team of students to pick the calendar of summer sessions between that, and we hope by October 3rd we'll have a complete schedule ready to share. So we're asking you to commit on the theory that there will be Saturdays that you will be giving up, knowing that you don't know which Saturdays, and we'll take that into account. We're just asking you to make your best guess at this moment. So finally, I would just say, here's some next steps. If you're interested in doing this, the registration link can be found at the tinyurl.com JI for Justice Initiative registration. And if one of you can type that into so people can link to it, that would be great. If you have questions, email us at 2020justiceinitiative@gmail.com. We're monitoring that, and some of the questions that are coming in, we are trying to not just respond to, but then create a kind of FAQ page on the Systemic Justice blog to keep people updated. And you can follow that at the lower link on these bullets. So that was my attempt to be fast. I know that maybe that wasn't fast enough, but I hope it wasn't too fast and that you were able to get what you needed to get to be able to make a decision. I'll be quiet now and see if there's anyone left. And if I think we'd love to take some questions for anyone who has them.
Yeah, we'd absolutely love to take some questions. Please use the either the chat or the Q&A function. And as we said, we do have an email address. So if anything pops up after this, please feel free to reach out that way as well. I do see one question. Will the survey include the approximate time commitment for each participation level? That would be helpful.
Yes, it doesn't, but the math is easy. If we're imagining that the participation levels are how many sessions you're sort of committing to the Saturday sessions, those are going to be mostly 3 hours. So if you're committing to 1 to 3 of them, it's 1 to 3 times 3 and so forth in terms of time commitment. In terms of what comes of the discussion groups or the reading groups, those are going to be shaped very much by the participants in them. And so the level of commitment in time commitment in each of those will depend on what is determined by the individuals who come together, probably via Slack, to create those relationships.
We have another question. Do you have to be an actively practicing attorney to participate?
So I'm going to just say no. All you have to do is be someone who has gone through law school and actually really caring about justice. I think the question is whether your experience will overlap enough with what will be the core of this group and your commitment to these larger goals is shared. Then I think we would love to have you.
Okay, another question. Is it possible to be a friend and still join in the extracurriculars, or do you need to commit at the ally level for those groups?
Our view, Justin and Yamali, correct me, is that no, the friend, ally, partner is really how many Saturday sessions that you sort of make your best effort to attend. You commit to doing that, and that's because we think those sessions are really critical to building this network and this community, and having people there routinely, most of the time or much of the time, and knowing that the people are there who are making a real commitment and so forth. So that's separate. And then that list of 12 items really is a separate set of things that you can do. So you can actually say, I'm down for being a friend, but what I really love to do is participate in a reading group, or I'd really love to do is, help help with a session on X. And if you let us know through the survey, we'll count you in, and we'll also keep track of that information and try to bring you in at some point in our planning going forward.
Another question. At this time, are the only students participating in this initiative HLS or HUSL students? So Harvard or Howard? No, this is open to all law students. The students we've been working with these past few weeks have been from schools all across the country. So it's definitely not limited to Howard or Harvard law students. Another question, are the Saturday sessions going to be in webinar format, or will we be able to see other participants in the future?
You'll be able to see.
All right, I am not seeing any more questions. As we said, if a question pops up later, feel free to email us. We are monitoring our email account and do our best to respond promptly.
Justin, I've spoken way too much, and I'd love it if you might be willing to close us today.
Sure. Well, again, I just wanted to thank everybody for taking time out of your Saturday. I'm so excited about this project. I think it will change things for the better across the country, legal education, the legal landscape. So many people will be inspired. So many people will be better off. So we're hoping that you can participate in any of those levels and help us to enrich this program so that we can change the world in our small way. So thank you all for participating once again, and we hope you have a great Saturday evening.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, take care.